Hey, welcome to my channel. Welcome to the point where just finished watching. I would have loved to have actually streamed it while talking about it. It was pretty impressive. I mean, the fact is like, let's not forget the fact is like um, signs. I mean, this broke definitely Verstappen and Red Bull's streak in this case, and the fact that Max could have had 11 straight. Uh, Unfortunately, was broken because of this, because of the qualifying and all that stuff. I mean, couldn't even get out to Q2. But in any case, um, it's one of those things where this was a little bit of a surprise that the way it played out was impressive to say the least. Quite honestly, congratulations to Carlos Sainz, of course. I mean, what Sainz did was really impressive and amazing with the Ferrari team as well too. Definitely deserved it, rightfully so. The question, not the question, but it was the final 4 to 5 laps was really impressive, specifically the last 3 to 2 laps. I mean, honestly, you could see that signs was car was diminishing to the point where like Lando probably could have overtaken him, but the problem was he was defending Russell at that point by defending Russell, the two Mercedes, basically Russell and Hamilton. It was at that point he had to take his objective of trying to overtake Sainz by at least defending against the Mercedes cars, and by that de facto he had essentially helped out his former teammate Carlos Sainz, and you could see that Carlos Sainz at that point kind of in gratitude helped him out in the long term, in that run as well too, to the point where like by doing that, giving him that opportunity. I mean, I wish I could show you the highlights of it. Well, unfortunately, YouTube would basically mark it off as copyright and block me. It's one of those things where Signs, by doing that and by defensively playing off into what it was, he also helped out essentially Lando at that point as well too. To the point where I guess it's that whole bromance thing that came about as a result while they were McLaren together, and it hasn't left since. To the point where like you don't see that true competitive nature that these two have against each other. It's more of like they help each other out. It seems like, and that's what it seems like it happened basically. Where like they seem to have helped each other out, specifically to the point where like Sainz eventually helped him out, and like I gave in gratitude, I guess, for the fact that Lando helped defended him for him. He's like, all right, let me reciprocate that in a way. To the point where by doing so, it came to the point like Russell, who started off in two, everyone had their money, maybe possibly that Mercedes could win this and Russell could get his first win ever. Because the fact is it came down to strategy at that point. But in reality, it looks like that didn't happen. And the fact that McLaren was able to get up there and get the number two spot was pretty impressive as well too. But the fortunate part is just at the last lap. I mean, you figured it was going to be Sainz, Lando, Norris, and Russell at that point. But then Russell, you could see his top rear end tire basically wearing out a little bit. He was losing grip, and at turn, I forgot what turn it was, but like the fact that he just went into went off into the wall at that point, it was I could see his frustration, and that kind of is disappointing because the fact is like at least he should have had a podium finish, but by doing so, it gave basically Hamilton that third spot basically, and rightfully so. Hamilton, I think, definitely could have pushed Russell and overtaken him. But the problem is I think from a team perspective, I think he was being a team player at this point. He's like, hey, look, Russell's got to pick it up because like we're gonna, if he can do it, he can overtake Lando. And the thing is like if the spots were reversed, and if it was Hamilton and then Russell, I think Hamilton could have overtaken Lando, honestly. I think Russell, for whatever reason, I think because he was losing grip, and I think he was losing grip and losing time, that he didn't have the speed that he needed, that if he'd succeeded to Hamilton, I think Hamilton would have overtaken Lando by default. Then if he were overtaken Lando, Russell could have overtaken Lando. It could have been 1, 2, 3 finish, but Ferrari number one and the two Mercs number 2 and 3. But in this case, it didn't happen. But the other factor is let's not forget this. Had they overtaken Lando earlier, I think they could have put much more pressure onto Carlos to the point where Mercedes could have finished 1-2 at that point as well too. But it is what it is. I'll say this though. I mean, by doing this, by the way Alonso finished, as well as the way Hamilton finished. I mean, it came down to the point where basically, I mean, Alonso pretty much finished last. Unfortunately, that's the unfortunate part about it. But by this, Hamilton overtook Fernando on the number 3 spot in the drivers' championship. Still far ways from Sergio Checo, basically, to the point where, like, unless Checo does not finish in the next couple of races, Hamilton probably it's going to be a battle between Fernando and Lewis at that point as well too, honestly. But let's also not forget about the way Verstappen was. Basically, he started 11th, and of course he finished off at number 5. Sorry, the fact that he was able to overtake Gasly and such, and Sergio Checo, starting way back in the grid, finished off 8th, so he was able to gain points as well too. But I think it's more of a case where, like, Checo, it shows, I don't know the brilliance of their skills, but it's more of a case, it shows the brilliance of their Red Bull car. Considering that, like, how they were able to come back and, like, finish 5 and 8 basically, which is pretty impressive in and of itself. Which makes you wonder, had Lewis Hamilton been in the Red Bull, well, actually, you know what? If Hamilton was smart and he recognized what was going on with Mercedes and decided to join Red Bull just before Checo, chances are we might be seeing a different story for the next couple of years, for the past 2 years. But in this situation, like I said, it's one of those things where it is what it is. But let's not take away from what both Max and Checo did. Now, as far as the Constructors' Cup, all right, so it's still, I mean, by this win alone, and the fact that Ferrari was able to gain some serious points, they've become the number 3 spot now. Like Aston Martin, I mean, they're down now to the point where they're in 4th place. Now, granted, McLaren is number 5 in the spot, but McLaren probably has no shot in capturing Aston Martin unless Aston Martin somehow does not points in the next few races. And McLaren is able to get the number 2 podium for both of their members. It's going to be most likely going to be a number 1-2 spot of Red Bull and Mercedes at this point. Assuming Mercedes is able to get in the high end points, finish off in the high end of the points, basically. So it's a number 2 spot. But it looks like it's a battle between the number 2 spot now. What we thought was going to be Mercedes and Aston Martin is now looking more like Mercedes and Ferrari. I mean, Sainz is doing a lot at this point. I mean, honestly, it's possible maybe Ferrari shifts their focus of driver number 1 from being Leclerc to being Carlos, because it's looking more and more like Carlos is a straightforward, stable driver that can get some serious points. That if they focus on him a little bit more, maybe he can finish the races. I mean, he's able to finish this race right now, and honestly, P1. And congrats to him again. It's long overdue again. I mean, this isn't his first, but it's long overdue, especially in Singapore. Leclerc, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's happening with Leclerc, honestly. It's one of those things where you think he has the brilliance of, he has the skill sets to drive. It's just I don't know. Maybe he's not listening. Maybe he's too arrogant and he doesn't want to listen to his engineers and doesn't push for whatever needs to be done. I have no idea. But with that, I mean, I'm a little shocked and surprised that, Ferrari was able to overtake, because I thought it was going to be between Mercedes and Aston Martin for the number 2 spot. But now, seeing what's happening with Ferrari, I mean, they're just coming up, basically. Now, the real question is I haven't followed suit as what exactly happened, but Lance Stroll was not in this race. The fact is, the fact that he had to, he had a bad crash in the qualifying is that, the question comes down to is, should he be the driver? I mean, in the beginning, he was doing really well. Surprisingly, he was doing really well. And now the fact is he's just falling off the grid left and right to the point where, Alonso is the one that's pretty much keeping Aston Martin in the Constructors' Cup aspect of things. That you wonder, does Lawrence Stroll basically says, like, you know what, time to leave Lance. Sorry, Lance, you've got to be cut. I mean, what's Lance going to do? Like, Paul, what are you going to do? It's like, honestly, it's Lawrence's money. Honestly, if he wants to gain that fame and fortune, you're going to have to cut ties and basically, like, you know, bring up a better driver, basically. Honestly, I hate to say it, I thought Lance had that skill set, considering what he did in the first 3 races this year. I mean, with the, you know, with his arm. It seems like maybe you move away from him. And the fact is, Alonso's not going to be around for the next couple of years. I mean, he's probably going to retire, not this year, but probably after next year, he's probably going to retire. So if I'm a Papa Stroll, I hate to say it, but, like, you know what? Cut your ties. I think everyone's saying that you got to cut your ties with your son, basically. Like, you know, you have to cut him and basically focus on the right drivers for your team. If I'm them, if I'm Aston Martin, and the way things are, looking at how Albon has been driving this year, you try to get Albon on your team. You try to bring him on board. Honestly, if it was Albon and Alonso, I think you'd see a probably serious contention for the number 2 spot, actually, in the Constructors' Cup. To the point where, like, I think Albon would probably be up there, like, you know, the number 4 or 5 spot, quite honestly, in the Drivers' Championship. Maybe, definitely number 5 for sure. But I don't know. Like I said, that's neither here nor there. This is all thinking, basically. Like, the thing is, you know, Lance Stroll's not going to go away because he's got his father basically into the thing, and so it's one of those things where, like, honestly, Lance is like probably an arrogant jerk. He probably thinks. I mean, you got to have the arrogance, of course, to be a driver like this, to say you're the better driver out there. But the thing is, like, it seems like he's not learning from Alonso. The whole purpose of, I think, one thing of bringing Alonso on board was to basically maybe hope that some of that knowledge would rub off onto Lance, but it looks like he's not taking that to heart, and that's why, you know, you're seeing what's happening basically, and, like, you know, you're seeing him drop off at this point. So I hate to say this, but yeah, you have to, like, you know, probably drop him because, like, think about it. I mean, like, right now, Lance in the way things are for the Drivers' Championship standings. Let's see where he's at actually. He's number 9. I mean, he's number 9. He's okay. He's there. He's above Gasly, but I think that's only because Gasly is not in a great car. If Gasly was in a great car, I think he'd be up there. Like, he'd be probably number 6 as well too, number 7. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I would say look for the number 4 spot now. If Sainz plays off the way he does and he still gets off a couple more victories, I think Sainz can definitely catch up to Lewis for sure. I think Sainz can catch up to Lewis. If Carlos can, and the Ferrari team basically, if they can string off a couple more P1s, you will see that massive, not massive, but you will see that competition for the number 3 spot in the Drivers' Championship with Hamilton. And if that's the case, it's probably the new guard at that point. To the point where, like, both Alonso and Hamilton might have no choice but to retire sooner or later. But if Hamilton, of course, wants that number 8 or title win, should have had it, of course, in 2021. But the way things were, I think the way things played out, he was robbed of it, of course. And I think if he'd gotten it, I think he would have left at that point. But the fact that he was robbed of it, I think he's not going to retire. He's going to get that 8 spot. But I think the way he sees Verstappen, and he's probably going to see Verstappen if the way Red Bull goes, and they're playing out, Verstappen's probably going to beat his record anyways if he gets 8. So I think he wants 9. I think he needs 9 just to make sure that he's solid enough from that. And especially the way if Max drives the way he drives, he's probably not going to survive for a while. I mean, honestly, you can only drive so recklessly for so long, honestly. I mean, I'm not saying that Max is reckless, but there can be seen cases of where you see him can be a little bit reckless. I mean, that's attributing to youth, of course, but I don't think anyone's going to catch up to him at this point. I think if Max wins the next race, if I believe correctly, if he wins the next race, I think mathematically he wins the championship because, like, there's no way Perez can actually catch up to him at that point. Now, can Lewis catch Sergio? It's possible. It is definitely possible. Put it this way, because let's come from this angle. How many races are remaining? Let's see. You've got Japan, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you got 7 races. 1 in Japan, 1 in Qatar, one in Austin, Texas, Mexico, Brazil, and then Vegas, the one basically, the last one, which is going to be November. And I'm trying to see if I can get to that one because honestly, I would love to be in Vegas around that time as well too. To the point where like you got the races going on at that. Oh, wait a minute. There's something else going on in Vegas around that time too. I gotta check that out and see how that works out. But yeah, in any case, I can see how that works out and if I can get to that because the tickets are pretty expensive and specifically the rooms themselves over there are really expensive as well too. To the point where like people are just getting motels and all that stuff. I would love to do an Airbnb, but in reality, you want to be in one of the casinos that's overlooking the racetrack. So you just be in your, in your room at that point as well too, or depending where you're at. But yeah, or two, hopefully if I know someone that works that like has a room there, or is willing to like help me out, help a brother out. Yeah, but with that, I'll leave it at that. I've been talking for a good 16 minutes now. If you see my channels, see my specific videos, you know that earlier in this year, in the beginning of the year, I made a resolution that I would do a live once a week for every week, once a week for every week of the year, basically to the end of the year. It's one of those things. Maybe more lives, in the week, but at least one live stream a week, basically. I'd love to get more and more of it, and I'll get to it. So that, you're seeing me doing some lives here and there nowadays, anyway. So, but with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing any pure views on my case. I mean, if I am, I'll be surprised because I am using a tool called Restream. Or a plugin, sorry, not a tool, but a plugin to the OBS Studio called Restream, which is streaming not only to my YouTube, but also to my Twitch. Now, you might be asking, why are you streaming to your Twitch? Well, why not? I mean, I had Twitch for a while now, before Amazon bought them out. And honestly, why not? It's another streaming platform as well, too, so why not? Would I want to stream into, it'd be good if I could stream in also to TikTok, but I don't really think I need to stream into TikTok, honestly, quite honestly. Surprisingly enough, I think this is shaping up to be, I don't want to say a mundane F1 year, but Verstappen's going to win. Red Bull's already won it, the Constructors' Cup. So the only thing that you're looking for now is like the Constructors' Cup for the number 2-3 spot, and as well as the driver's spot for the number 3-4 spot, basically, between Alonso and Hamilton. And then you got, the 2-3-4 spot for the Constructors' Cup between Aston Martin, Ferrari, and Mercedes, basically. But with that, I'll leave it at that. There's not much else I can say or do at this point. As you know, I don't do anything scripted, so it's usually off the top of my head. I'll probably try to do more live stuff for my phone eventually. Now that they've opened it up, YouTube has opened it up to people with, the ability to stream live. I think they're trying to compete with the Twitches out there now as well too, because Twitch is getting a lot more popularity in the streaming live world. That I think they want to make it available for everyone to do at this point. But if you like my video, like my channel, like my content, please subscribe. And of course, my whole goal is basically to make this a better channel, so I welcome feedback. I do read my comments when I get notified, of course, and I do respond to them as well too when they warrant a response. And when I do see that I do get a comment or alerted that I got a comment. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and of course, unrehearsed. Until next time. Sorry, I'm just looking down.